AJ, it's a dream come true. Top of the show.
You're not here?
What else do you love?
You're not here.
Topics besides baseball.
Talking about other stuff?
Oh, yeah. I mean, ice cream. I mean, what do we want to talk about? What are we talking about?
Yes.
Luka for AD. What's the
I
baseball
don't get it.
comparison?
I'm going to say this. I have friends that live in Dallas, and they want to know what the F is going on. What's the baseball comparison? It would be like trading Bryce Harper for Bobby Witt Jr., something like that.
It's a great comp. That's a great
Wow.
comp.
I love
it would
that
be
comp.
It would be something like that, right? A little bit of an older guy, but still really good for a younger guy that, I don't know. The only thing is, listen, I don't watch a ton of NBA. I'm not really huge like you are, Scott. But doesn't this screw Luka from not signing a max contract now? So, like, it kind of – not only did the Mavs, according to everyone I know in Dallas, they got bleeped, but there must be more to this than we know. But it also kind of screwed Luka a little bit because he can't sign a 5-year 350 or whatever crazy number it was. And everyone says baseball players make too much. But I don't know, man. I think a Bryce for like a Bobby Witt Jr., I mean, or Soto, something like that. I mean, you put two of the best players that people know out there and trade them. These trades don't happen in MLB.
Should I show you? Let's run through like 3 tweets here. Pap had a great one to start. So he said, "Woo, finally, Red Sox off the hook from the Mookie Betts trade being brutal." There it is. Wow, the Mavs just made the worst trade of the century, topping the Mookie Betts trade. Red Sox off the hook now. Mark Carrig had a good one too over at The Athletic. He said, unbelievable trade. The Lakers are bad for baseball. So good. Yeah, and let's do one more because I think this really puts into context the differences that we see between the NBA and MLB. Meek Phil, whoever that is on Twitter, said, NBA GMs, please take our 25-year-old superstar. We'd love to do a deal. MLB GMs, sorry, sir, our 12th ranked prospect in the organization that's several years away is off limits. That's good.
Orioles. Orioles. A lot of sickness
okay?
going around up
You got
there.
a little something caught?
A lot of sicknesses.
Mm-hmm.
My thing is how do you? I don't know. I don't know enough about like the cap space and all this stuff, but I mean, Luka Doncic, I mean, obviously is a really good player. I mean, Anthony Davis has been a good player for a long time. I mean, wasn't it like a couple of days ago LeBron was saying like da-da-da, blah, 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 whatever LeBron always says about how he has no control over everything. You think LeBron didn't have something to do with this? I mean, come on, no, I don't think any player in baseball has the power that certain players in the NBA have.
He claims he didn't have anything to do with this. You're right. Basketball players have more power and they can impact this. There was a writer who said that like LeBron wasn't feeling AD anymore or whatever. Again, I'm talking without the best knowledge, but I do know that this definitely happened. And then LeBron tweet quoted it and was like, "You bleeping liar." And again, I didn't even care about the drama part, like the specifics of the drama. I just said, what is this called in the NBA? Saturday. It was Saturday. But yes, Tuesday. That's just too good. So anyway, props to the NBA for doing all that.
By the way, I want to say this before we keep going, and there's stuff that did happen in Major League Baseball, but this kind of does coincide with Major League Baseball. And I've seen this, someone in our chat wrote this, but also there's a bunch of other things. The Mavs owner, since Cuban sold to the new ownership group, has said I don't know if they've said this, but there's a lot of conspiracy theories saying they want to move the team to Vegas because they have connections to the Vegas world. And so this is a way to make them really bad. And then if they get, a certain thing, then they can move to Vegas. So again, conspiracy theorists, get after it. I don't know, but I saw this on Twitter and then someone in the chat also wrote it. So I don't know. Maybe Scott can dig in a little bit, but Vegas is trying to get a baseball team, a basketball team. They already have the NFL and the NHL.
I did see that, and I read it, and I enjoyed it. I didn't know enough about it to really comment one way or another, but I do love myself a good conspiracy theory. And we are going to talk about another city that's competing with Vegas because they actually get way more tourists. But we'll get to that later. I know it's AJ's most exciting topic of the day. But first, we had a good signing, so let's charge the damn mound.
He's charging the mound.
It's almost like I said this on Friday. Free agent Jack Flaherty announces he's returning to the Tigers. 2 years, $35 million with an opt-out. That's the guaranteed money. If he puts up 25 starts or more this season, the number would go to 2 years, $45 million. He gets 25 in his first year, which Ken Rosenthal pointed out is a top 10 starting pitching salary for 2025. And then year number two, if he kept it, would either be 10 or $20 million. The Detroit Tigers have their 1-2 punch. Kratz, remember we talked to Scooble about this. Flaherty was on our show recently and talked about this. We were bringing this up on Friday. They needed another top-end starter, and good for them. They ended up trading him away last season, getting a starting shortstop, a good prospect, and they brought him back.
Shows he made an impact. Not only did he make an impact, but he kind of reinvented himself. So whatever he had worked on in the offseason, talked about being healthy, going into last offseason, needing to, have a good bounce back, and he figured some stuff out. It's one thing to change things or figure things out in the offseason, but then you join an organization that you've never been with, and then allowing them to continue to build on that, continue to implement that, and it shows. I mean, he gets an opportunity to go back. I love the contract structure of this. I would obviously have loved to see him just get his flat $80 million. But maybe it could be, he has to kind of do a little more prove it year, one more here. But I like the structure for him. But again, I feel like the team's making out pretty well.
My thing is, didn't we have Tarek Skubal on, what was it, a week ago Saturday? And he said something like, man, we wanted him in a big game. And if we would have had him, we could have had a better chance to win the ALDS against those pesky Guardians. And
do you want to hear the clip?
Sure, let's hear it, because
okay.
It was kind of interesting.
Do you guys win the DS if Jack Flaherty doesn't get traded?
I saw this clip.
No, because we asked Jack.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I love Jack. He's a hell of a talent. That's such a. I would say, I mean, if there's a guy I want on the mound, that's not me on our team. I want him on the mound. Mm-hmm. I mean, last season was special. K per 9 was, I think, career high. Walks per 9, career low. That's kind of the formula, right? In the postseason, is you want guys that can miss bats and get you out of trouble. And you saw his starts. I think he only had one bad one. All the other ones were pretty dominant. In terms of who he is, and he was going through some stuff too. Physically with his body, and just him being able to take the ball every fifth day. You see the toughness that kind of guy has, and I think he has the respect of the guys in our clubhouse. And
well, two things off that clip. One, Tarek Skubal wanted him back. He got him back. And then two, was it what he said about him going through some stuff physically to take the ball every fifth day that didn't allow him to get the money he was looking for? I mean, he would have thought he could have gotten to Kikuchi money, right? But I mean, he got a nice 1-year deal. He has another good year. He'll opt out and try again next year, because like another prove it year. But this is his second prove it year in a row he's had to do now. So I don't know. It's interesting. Good for the Tigers. Somebody on Twitter hit me up and said I'm going to say the Guardians and Royals are still better, and I asked him if that's what he wanted me to say. I mean, I think this puts the Tigers in a better spot, because they don't win the division win one of the wild cards last year if Jack Flaherty doesn't have the starts he had the whole year. So, yes, could they have been better in the playoffs? Absolutely. But at the same time, this definitely will help them in the long haul for 162, especially if they don't trade him and they keep him again. And last thing before I throw it to you guys, does this open the door even more for Alex Bregman? Because the Tigers are putting more money into this. So does this mean a guy like Bregman could come in and kind of be the cherry on top to what the Tigers have done this offseason? They're not done. They shouldn't be done. Nice move for Scott Harris. But is Alex Bregman the cherry on top that can put them possibly even better in the division and in the playoffs race?
I think so. And there's a great quote tweet from Scooble when Flaherty was showing Scooble kind of playing to the crowd in Cleveland, because he loves that stuff, just to be the enemy number one in an opposing ballpark. But anyway, those two really fed off each other in a competitive way. We do also have the clip of Jack Flaherty on our show maybe 2 weeks ago, if that. So let's run that too, so we can hear what Flaherty had to say about his Detroit experience, and also about if the Tigers would have advanced to the ALCS to face the Yankees if they had 2 starters instead of just 1.
The Tigers win the American League if you're still on the Tigers. I know it's ifs and buts and all that stuff.
I wanted to stay in Detroit. We had conversations, and I loved it there, and I thought the combo of me and Scoob was incredible. And then you saw what they did, the run that they went on, even after I got traded, and they brought all those young guys up. I think, they got to. It's hard to say. I mean, they get to at least you get to Game 5 with Cleveland, and they got Scoob on the mound, and Lane Thomas puts one swing, and that's how the playoffs go. Is as crazy as it is. Do I think we win that series? Probably. We probably win that series and face the Yankees in the ALCS, which is crazy to think about.
All right, so I want to know, did Jack Flaherty get a qualifying offer this year?
No,
right?
He wasn't eligible because he got traded. This is a problem, AJ. I know where you're going. Yeah, he could get one if he opts out.
Yeah, like that was my big thing is if he opts out, they can whammy him with a qualifying offer. So it's going to be real interesting this whole thing to see what he decides to do, what him and his agents decide to do. Let's say he goes out and has a great year. It's probably a no-brainer. But let's say he goes out and makes 25 starts and has a 3-ish ERA, a little over a 3-ish ERA and doesn't do as well as he did last year. It's going to be an interesting decision for Mr. Flaherty.
Mm-hmm. It is. I mean, he made some tweaks this year. He had an awesome season. I think I agree with you that the Yankees specifically screwed him over a little bit just because that deal was nixed based on them not liking the medicals for him as a rental. They, for the most part, proved to be wrong. He was pretty good down the stretch for the Dodgers. Had a few clunkers in the playoffs. Also had a few freaking dazzling performances in the playoffs. You saw the flashes of a 1, and you saw a 1-2 starter for most of the season. So, like Scooble mentioned, career best strikeout rate, career best walk rate. The velo was good. The tweaks that he made, so I'm looking back, up the curveball usage with the Dodgers, more slider, less cutter, just made some tweaks with the Tigers, who obviously did a great job with him, and they've done a little bit of pitching whispering, and then the Dodgers have their own model as well that does pretty well. So anyway, we're going to talk to Cody Stavenhagen, our Tiger Territory host and the Athletic beat writer on the Tigers about this. So let's swing back, and then we'll dive deeper into where the Tigers are at in the AL Central. I'm going to do a trivia question with you. I'll give you a second to think about it while I say something else. I want you to rank the payrolls in the American League Central from 1 to 5 with an update from Jack Flaherty last night. Think about that while I tell our YouTube fam. Thank you very much for getting us to 75,000 subscribers. We're almost at 75 and a half already. Friday, we hit that number, AJ. During the show, we were, 100 something off. We said it, and then very quickly it changed. That means some of you are watching and you had never pressed the sub button, but that's okay. We still love you. We just would love you to give us one little boop, subscribe, and
we'll love you more.
Like every day.
We'll love you more.
And then we'll love you more.
You can have favorites.
Yeah.
Can I just say this? This might be the best, greatest day of all time on this show. The greatest single
NBA
moment.
talk. I say subscribe. No. I'm not
no,
next
that's
to
it.
you.
That was it. That was it right there. You just went on like a 30 to 45 second diatribe on subscribing, which I've been asking you for almost 2 years to say daily. That only takes 5 seconds. And this is the first time maybe in history that you've said it. So thank you, Jesus.
I figured out a way to do it. I think when we're just on for the YouTube fam, it hits harder. It connects more. I feel like we have our TV show and everyone's involved, but then we get our little 3-minute breaks where we can chat with the OGFT fam. So anyway, that's how it's done. Now rank your top 5 payrolls in the American League Central. Who wants to do it? AJ, go ahead.
White Sox are 5. White Sox are 5. I know that.
Mm-hmm.
Guardians are 4.
Mm-hmm.
Twins, I think, still might be 1. But then Tigers 2, Royals 3.
Close.
I thought the Tigers passed the Twins. I think the Twins are 3rd, and the Royals jumped over with their with their Estevez signing?
I've got Tigers 1, Twins 2, Royals are still 3. Twins are, I think, at exactly 140. Tigers are in the 142, 143 range, depending on which publication you're looking at. And then the Royals are in the 130s, I believe. Yes, they are, because Ken Rosenthal wrote that article about Santander and where that would have put them, which would have put them, I think, at number 1 or 2 at this point. But anyway, we'll get into that talk later. Cody Stavenhagen, The Athletic, plus Tiger Territory, which released a breaking news on Jack Flaherty last night. We'll talk to him about the move and Bregman next. The great Cody Stavenhagen, probably with no sleep last night, but still has the hair fresh. Where are you? No.
Is he at the mall? Looks like he's at the mall. Either that or he's got a really big house.
We're hanging out in northern Michigan, supposed to be on vacation, but the Tigers keep making me work.
You were like, you know what? I think I'll go away right before spring training. Offseason will be done. Hold up. The Tigers have been playing chicken with some of their favorite free agents. So let's start here. Is that what was happening with Jack Flaherty? He joined our show a couple weeks ago and said teams were checking in like, hey, how you doing? Do you feel like you want to maybe come down on price and join us? Do you think that's what happened here? And then obviously we'll get into the fun stuff. But how did the negotiation go down in your mind?
Yeah, I think this one kind of fell into the Tigers' lap, right? I mean, I would not have envisioned them signing Jack Flaherty at the outset of the offseason. Jack wanted 80, 90, $100 million. And with the way he pitched last year, I'm not sure that was unreasonable, but the market just did not materialize for him. I think when Jack and his camp realized that they had to come down in their ask, he obviously talked about liking his time in Detroit, wanting to come back. I think the Tigers were happy to have him if they were able to get him on a shorter term 1 to 2 year deal, which is what they got, one with or 2 years with an opt out after that first season. I think they're really excited to get him back and excited to get him back kind of with that lower term commitment, even though they're going to pay him 25 million next year.
Are they better? I mean, let's just get right to it. Are they better than they were last year? We just saw who they added. I mean, Gleyber Torres basically taking over what you thought Torkelson would give you coming off a 30 home run year. Like, are they a better team than they were last year at the beginning of the season?
Yeah, the way I'm thinking about that is like, I think the floor is a lot higher. This is still a really young team. There's still going to be some questions, but they lost literally nobody from their playoff roster. They had no free agents. They've made some solid acquisitions now. Look, if they were able to get that big all-star caliber bat, then you could start really feeling optimistic about this team. But there's some young hitters. Look, they may not all take a huge leap, but if a couple of them take a step forward, I think the floor is higher, and there's a world where they could be even better than last season for sure.
Cody, are they done? That's what I want to know. Are they done? Kahnle's a nice addition to the bullpen, a veteran guy down there. Gleyber, obviously. Alex Cobb, if he's healthy, which always seems to be a thing with him, can do some nice things. And then you throw Flaherty to back up Skubal. Are they done, or is there a little third baseman out there floating around that A.J. Hinch knows very well that would slide in nicely at third base to play there for him, and Alex Bregman?
Yeah, I don't think they're done. I think right-handed bat is a priority one way or another. Bregman's obviously the big fish, and I think they've shaped a lot of their offseason around staying in the Alex Bregman pursuit. We're going to see what happens, and we can talk more about it. I think they have a chance, and even if they miss one Bregman, I'll be curious if there is a pivot, whether that's for a platoon guy like Randall Grichuk, or maybe you circle back to the Nolan Arenado idea. The plan A, I think, is to get Bregman. But there's a strong argument they need a right-handed bat, regardless, to really strengthen this lineup.
If they pivot to Arenado, is there a chance Arenado even says, "Hey, I'm cool with that"? Because he's kind of made it. You haven't heard anything.
No, I'm not even sure if the Tigers would circle back on that conversation. There was a time where I don't think Arenado had any interest in coming to Detroit. There's also a time where he didn't have interest in going to Houston, and now he might have to be open-minded or he's going to be stuck in St. Louis. So I think one of these teams that misses out on Bregman might circle back to Nolan, and if I were him, I'd be a little more willing to go elsewhere this time.
Cody, is this the Tiger strategy now? kind of wait guys out? Because you said you never thought that Jack Flaherty would be back because the market didn't dictate it. So is this now the strategy that we've talked about this, a lot of teams are kind of like, oh, we'll just wait up, we'll wait players out until they kind of get into a mode where, hey, we'll take shorter term deals. Could this be the case with an Alex Bregman type where they're just waiting and hoping he'll come for a year or two and have opt-outs and give maybe a higher AAV, but make sure there's opt-outs bounced in there so he can try again next offseason or the offseason after that?
Yeah, I think a lot of teams are taking this strategy. I understand why that's frustrating for players. I think it's definitely a strategic move for the Tigers. Scott Harris, I just think he likes flexibility, really wants to make sure he's winning these deals, doesn't love long-term commitments. The Bregman thing might end up being a little bit different. I still think years could be a huge sticking point for Bregman or for the Tigers. Like, are they going to go 6, 7? I don't know. I think if they're willing to go 6 or 7 years, maybe this would have been done a long time ago, but they'd probably prefer to get him on a shorter term deal. But it's also like, I don't know if you're going to be able to get Alex Bregman for 2 years, 3 years. I mean, maybe it's 5 years with some opt outs in there. Maybe there's more. I think that might be the type of thing it takes to get Bregman. If the Tigers are willing to throw the right money on the table and structure the contract the right way, there's definitely a world where it can happen. We don't know what they're offering, but I get the sense they think they have a strong offer on the table. But I don't think they want to make like a 7 year, straight up commitment to a guy. And that's one reason that the Bregman saga has taken so long to play out.
Dang it, Javi Baez just is hurting the Tigers' chances of getting this. But where do they rank right now in this division with this Jack Flaherty move? Because as soon as Bregman signs, then we're going to ask you to come back on again, and we're going to listen to Tiger Territory to hear where they rank after they get Bregman.
Yeah, I think if they get Bregman, they're pretty clear AL Central favorites, and then you start talking like where do they rank in the American League as a whole? Yankees, Orioles, like who else would you put up there if this team adds Alex Bregman? That's, in my opinion, a pretty strong argument for the Tigers to go get that deal done right now. I think it's, them and the Royals, like the AL Central's hard. The Tigers, the Royals look good. The Guardians always find a way to be competitive. The Twins had a terrible finish last year, but there's still a lot of talent on that roster. Tigers are going to be projected, I think, toward the top of this division. But you could still see a world where their lineup can struggle a little bit, and that's why I wouldn't quite declare them all-out favorites until they get another bat in there.
Cody, I want to ask more about Flaherty and how he's, bounced around a little bit the last couple seasons. So I'll start with AFAM's question in the chat. How come the Orioles traded away Jack and made it seem that he wouldn't go back there due to that? How come the Tigers, were not considered in that way? Did you hear that at all? That he wouldn't go back to the Orioles? I don't think that was the case. I never heard that.
Yeah, I don't know like the facts here, so I don't want to speculate too much, but I think he just wasn't quite a good fit. I mean, the back half of his year with the Orioles, he was finishing the year in the bullpen. Like, I don't think he was happy. I don't think he pitched as well as they wanted him to. He's a pretty different pitcher than 2 years ago when he was in Baltimore. I mean, he changed his delivery, he changed his usage. But I think kind of like just it didn't go well the first time he was there, and that might have made both sides a little hesitant to do that again. Whereas he pitched great for the Tigers loved him, he enjoyed his time there. It was very different situations between those two teams.
Yeah, I remember, when we have Jack on, he just said it wasn't a good fit, I believe, and he said, not that he didn't enjoy his time there, but he just said it didn't work out. He didn't pitch very well. And he's like, I don't know that I would go back there. And listen, some teams just aren't fits for guys, right? He obviously said on here he loved his time in Detroit. Scooble said, hey, I loved him here to have my back in big games. So listen, he ended up in Detroit, place he knows well. He's in Lakeland right down the street. Maybe we can get him to come sit next to me instead of Scott. That'd be awesome one day. Maybe we can have him on one side, Scooble on the other. We could have a great show. Scott can sit it out. All right, Cody, maybe we could even have you come on. It's not that far. Lakeland to Orlando.
Yeah, but that's already a show. That's called Tiger Territory.
Yeah, we had Scooble on. He's great. That'd be a fun show, but we can't just kick Scott out like this. Come on.
Why not?
Thank you. I mean, you can. You can. If you guys have Flaherty, Scooble, and Cody on a show, I mean, I would say you could probably kick out AJ too. We really only have a 3-seat setup at Studio AJ, so we could just have those three. But again, that would be Tiger Territory.
Why? It'd be great if they were all sitting here, Scott, and you were outside sucking your thumb.
So if they get Bregman, we can add Bregman to the mix. Take me out of it. The Tigers will be contenders on a national level. It can be the foul territory show. It'd be never have been more nationally relevant in a long time.
That's right. That's right. Hey, I'm getting into it. You know, one of our regulars, D-Rod in the chat, it says I'm being too hard on the whole Yankees situation from last year. What do you remember from it when they, were going to acquire him and then they essentially flunked the medicals for a 2-month stretch? I was critical at the time because I said, number one, you don't want to end up facing him in the World Series. They did. And I know there was a good start and a bad. And number two, I do think it hurt his stock. I think when there's a big market team that's always in the news and it gets public, however it did, that they were going to get him, but then they didn't want him because of his back, it does hurt his free agent stock. I don't think it was necessarily fair to Jack. And I know even if he was battling it a little bit, that it seems like he's okay. He pitched down the stretch.
Yeah, I think that had a lot to do with why he didn't get that 4 or 5 year deal he might have wanted. There's some concerns about his back. He's had some shoulder injuries throughout his career. He's never had a major surgery, but he had 2 injections in the back last year. And even though he pitched really well for the Dodgers, we saw it. He was a little more up and down in the postseason. The velocity started fluctuating a lot toward the end of the year. I think that gave some teams pause. Maybe even the Tigers. They weren't offering him 4 or 5 years. And there's an opt-out. He has to make 15 starts if he wants to make 20 million in year two. Otherwise, he's only going to get 10. So that is structured in a way to give the Tigers like a little bit of risk protection. But you kind of have to like how this worked out for the Tigers. The Yankees nixed a deal. They were still interested in acquiring him, which is important to remember. They just basically didn't want to give up as much. There was a world on deadline day where it's like, are the Tigers even going to be able to move Jack Flaherty? Our team's going to be too worried about his back. Well, they got a top 100 prospect in Tyron Lorenzo. They got a shortstop in Trey Sweeney, who helped them down the stretch last year and could play a lot this coming season. And now they got Jack Flaherty back, and he's like still eligible to receive a qualifying offer. I think this worked out better for the Tigers than I ever would have imagined at the time.
I remember that was a buzzer beater deal too. That was really, really late in the trade deadline game because I remember Dodger fans were getting a little bit irritated with their progress. I think it was Edman. There was somebody else that I'm missing, and they were like, "That's it. We need a starter." Oh, right, Kopech. Yep. But I think Dodger fans were like, "We are dropping starters like flies. We're in trouble," and it really helped them to pick up innings there down the stretch, and then of course have him with some postseason performances that were great, and then a couple where he didn't quite carry the load. All right, Cody, great to have you on, man. Appreciate the time, and we're excited to hear.
Scott doesn't pay attention, so read the
No, I did. I did. AJ, I did pay attention. I said everyone good. No one replied. I'm looking at the screen.
I did.
And
you
then,
check the text, Scott. Check the text.
It says 8 seconds ago, which is when I was saying bye. But okay, we'll bicker.
No, that was producer lady replied, so that is not true.
Yeah, and it had said now it's been 22 seconds ago. But go ahead.
No, I thought you were going to read the tweet. Cody, he's out. You're in. All right, Cody. So you said you're on vacation in northern Michigan. What the hell do you do in northern Michigan besides freeze your balls off? I mean, seriously, you live in Detroit. Why would you go north of Detroit to get colder? I don't understand.
Yeah. Sometimes you got to make other people happy. We got some wineries up here. I've not started the tasting yet today. Held off just for you guys.
Thank
So
you.
check
Although
back
it
in a
would have been
couple
better.
hours for the real good content. Yeah.
Good. We'll have Cody again live in 4 hours on FT After Dark to hear how he really feels about Tiger territory and the moves that the Tigers made. But Cody, enjoy the time, man. Enjoy the break while you have it. And then, you'll be hustling tomorrow when they sign Bregman. Okay.
Right. Exactly. Hey, hopefully that doesn't go down tonight, but thanks for having me. It's a good time, guys.
Yeah, you got it. And there's Kieran Steckley, his co-host. The Tigers made a move. Those two fired up the mics. It's a Scott Harris victory lap. Kieran called it. All right. So go check that out. Of course, also Tommy Kahnle, a big addition to the bullpen for them. That's Cody Stavenhagen. Be right back, FT fam. We'll go over the Padres and their star being very vocal at FanFest this weekend. D-Rod's one of our OGs. He always comments on our videos too, so I want to give him some love there. And him and I have been battling over Flaherty for almost a year now because he thinks I'm too hard on the Yankees for the situation. Hey, they did what they did, but it does hurt the player. I do want to make sure that I document that part. When something comes out publicly, guys, tell me if I'm wrong here. Teams recognize it. Even if they have their own internal medical advice, they go, oh, the Yankees said no? They pay a lot of money to a lot of people to help them make these decisions.
I don't know that just because the Yankees, I mean, the person that's making the decision for the Yankees is just a person. They don't have this like biometric robot that can make, like, they could be strict or less strict, whatever it is, anything. I could write an article and I could put a tweet out there, say, well, I did some research and these are the guys that are most likely going to blow out. That hurts the player. I have no backing, just like, the Yankees medical staff is reading those medicals and they're like, it's not so bad they didn't want him. They just didn't want him quite as bad. So anything that comes out from any team, not just the Yankees.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, I hate when this gets out. This is why I give Ken some grief for this, but he would always hear that I was getting close to the team, and I'd always lie to him and tell him no, even though it was pretty much already done, because you always had to pass the medical side, right? So you never wanted to get out that in case something bad comes up, like, man, I got a bad elbow or bad knee or a bad hip or bad back or whatever it is, because you don't want that to get out that, oh, well, like Carlos Correa had a couple years ago with his leg, ankle, foot area. Oh, well, he failed this physical. He failed this physical. He failed this. Well, that just lowers your value as a player. So you got to be careful, and this stuff shouldn't have gotten out. I mean, it didn't come from Flaherty's camp, and it didn't come from the Tigers. So where did it come from? The Yankees. It had to have come from the Yankees. There's no other way to put it, because Flaherty ain't saying that, and the Tigers ain't saying that because they want his value high. So that came from someone in the Yankees organization.
And quick answer to those of you asking Pete Alonso to the Tigers, no. They have Cole Keith. They have him locked up long-term, and he looked really good in the second half. He's going to play first. Torkelson's still there. I think he could get traded, but that doesn't seem like the spot. You got Glaber at second, so I don't see Colt Keith suddenly. Where would he go?
Third?
Nah, they got Young and Bregman.
They have Young there. Yeah, I'm saying. Yeah, that's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
All right, the Padres had their little fan fest thing, so we can show you what AJ Preller said about his personal frustrations, even though he probably didn't portray it that way. He expects the Padres to enter the season with a championship roster. He adds, got to add a bat or two, got to add an arm or two. Manny Machado was also there. He was speaking about a number of topics, including the fact that his elbow sounded like quite a problem last year, coming off of surgery. Your post-surgery fun when it takes a little bit longer to recover, and it was barking at times for him. So he said it's a world of difference right now this offseason for him. I believe that. And he also, of course, addressed the Padres suddenly frozen in a free agent market and even via trade, which is so uncommon for AJ Preller. Here's what he said.
At the end of the day, we gotta, look at the guys that we have in here. Are we disappointed we haven't made any moves? Yeah, I think, as a team, we kind of look up there and you're a little disappointed that, we let some of the guys that were core group here, kind of go elsewhere. But at the end of the day, we can't control that, right? But we can control with the group of guys that we have here, and we're gonna go and get ready for a long season. I think that doesn't change, right? Our goal is still our goal, and our goal is to win a championship and win a World Series. So, come spring training time, with the guys that we have in that clubhouse, we're gonna go out there and we're gonna battle.
To me, it's not just the freeze, AJ. It's shedding players. It's Kim gone. It's Profar gone. It's maybe Dylan Cease gone. That's the problem.
Gone.
If they had
Tanner
Scott gone, if they had the
Musgrove's
same roster
down.
from last year, you would have been like, cool, great. This might have been the best or a top 3 team in baseball. last year by the time we got to the postseason, but it's not the same team.
No, it's not. And listen, there's very few people in Major League Baseball that can do this. We talked about LeBron and how he comes out and says, and players in the NBA are able to kind of manipulate trades and stuff like that. Manny might be the only guy I've ever heard come out and say this about ownership. Now, why can he do it? He's locked into a long-term deal, obviously. I believe he has a full no trade. But him and Peter Seidler were like this, okay? Like when they were like this. So he has the ear of ownership. I don't know if it's as good as it was before Peter passed away, but he was the guy they built the franchise around. He was kind of like, hey, you want to go get Juan Soto? Sure. You want to get this guy? Yes. So Manny, of course, is pushing buttons as he should, as your superstar should be able to when he's on a contract like he is. But I agree with what Manny said. Is he disappointed? Yes. Do they got to look at the guys in that locker room and say, we got to figure this out? Absolutely. Do I expect AJ Preller not to do anything? No chance. This dude makes trades on the night before the season starts. So he's out there searching, scouring, whatever it is, and he's looking for, kind of like we talked about with the Tigers, maybe a deal under the radar that he can get a guy for a 1-year or 2-year deal with opt-outs and get him on the cheap and go get him, go try to compete with the Dodgers like they did last year.
And here's the starting pitching update, Kratz, before you chime in on the Padres. So this happened right around showtime on Friday, so we didn't get to it. But they signed up Michael King to a unique contract structure that saves them money on the front end. So he avoids arbitration. He's getting $7.75 million guaranteed, $3 million signing bonus. So he gets that right away. He gets a $1 million salary during his free agent season. But there's a $3.75 million buyout on a mutual option, which he, of course, is not going to take. Mutual options are kind of fake and just gets you the buyouts that you essentially defer the money to it being paid at the end of the season. That money can go up to $4 million based on how many starts he makes. So the point of all this is it sounds like it puts them in a position where they're flexible enough with him being so cheap during the year that they don't have to trade him. That turns the attention back to Cease. Trying to remember who put this out there, but I just saw it last night, how the Padres ask is related to some major league talent coming through. They did get that with the Soto deal. Oh, it was in the Dan Hayes article, actually, which we'll talk to him later about with the Twins talking to the Padres. But that's going to be difficult this late in the game to be bringing in major league talent to help a club on a Dylan Cease trade. What do you think?
I mean, I think that's tough. I think the King part of this contract, this also helps Kinger, because if he puts up a year like he did last year, what are they going to slap on him? Qualifying offer. With the way it's structured, I don't see that qualifying offer, I don't see him needing to be traded because, we got to dump salaries. His salary is not that high for this season, so this team can't look at trading Cease. What I read about maybe Dan Hayes will say more about it, but it just doesn't seem like a fit. But going back to, it seems like a fit, but doesn't seem like it's going to happen. But going back to what AJ said, Preller and Jerry DiPoto are both sitting out there in the West going, just let me eat. I get it. I can't go under this number, whatever it is, 140, 170. Each team has their certain number they can't go under or they can't go over. I'm going to mix and match. We might end up at the same number, but I'm going to have 6 new players and gotten rid of 3 other players. I just don't see how you can get rid of Cease and still tell your clubhouse you're looking to compete.
I want to make one clarification before AJ jumps back in. Michael King not getting traded now would help him, because if he's on the Padres this year and then he does get traded during the season, then that wipes away the qualifying offer. If he just stays with the Padres, they're going to slap a qualifying offer on him, assuming that he looks like he did in 2024. So he'll still have that issue to overcome. Yeah. He's still going to have to deal with that. Yeah. So if you get traded, you don't get the qualifying offer. That's the whole name of the game.
That's why Jack Flaherty didn't get it.
Correct.
Yep.
But he could get it this time around.
You reward the team that traded for you because they had to give up prospects, so they didn't want that. So they wanted it to be a fair trade market, the Players Association. That's why they nixed that. And it makes sense if you think about it, because why should the Dodgers get a qualifying offer when really the Tigers took the risk on Flaherty when they signed him? And if he would have had a bad year, the Tigers would have had to eat it. But because the Dodgers made the trade, he was having a good year, they don't get rewarded by offering him a qualifying offer than getting the draft pick back. So it's one of the good rules that we have developed here through negotiations from the union and the owners that works.
Yeah, the qualifying offer in general is just massive salary suppression because you lose a pick. If you really wanted to play it right, wouldn't you just reward a pick to the team losing the player and not punish
just
the
straight
team
up give it to
signing the
him?
player? Yeah, reward the team losing the player, but not punish the team that's signing the player.
Isn't that what they used to do? Didn't they used to just give the compensatory picks? Like it was like I thought like Dustin McGowan
Tier
was
A,
that
Tier B.
for the. Yeah. There's different tiers depending on what type of player it was that left. It doesn't hurt the team that guy goes to. It just helps the team that signs a veteran that leaves then the next year.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. All right, a couple other quick things here because we got some small signings that we'll cover real quick right now, and a trade. The Tigers made a small trade. Jeff Passan reporting that the Rays are acquiring Alex Faedo from Detroit for a minor league catcher, Anderson Delgado, and a little cash. He said Faedo was a solid contributor for Detroit last year. He was DFA'd after the Tigers signed Tommy Kahnle. There's a few trades that should pop up. So that was one. I don't know if you guys caught a few days ago, Ryan Brazier getting DFA'd, who is definitely going to land with a team. That's a major league reliever who could pitch high leverage innings in many other bullpens. He just happens to be on the team that is signing everyone. So he'll get traded soon. But anyway, Faedo to the Rays sounds like a classic situation, AJ, of a guy who's going to go there. He's going to switch the repertoire up and, could be a contributor for this Tampa Bay team.
He had a nice year. He had a nice year for him because he was a starter at times when they needed a starter. He was their innings eater guy in the middle. And the best part for Alex Faedo, if you know anything about him, Scott, do you know where he was born?
I don't know where. I'm assuming it was Orlando, and he went to UF. So no,
he went to UF.
Orlando.
He was born in Tampa. So this is a homecoming for him.
That's great.
I mean, you get traded to your hometown team.
I hope he likes
kind of a
rainouts.
cool thing. Hope he likes rainouts. What do you mean? The Florida State League, you never got rained out. You never hit outside because you were under the cage because it rained every day at like 4:00. And then you usually didn't get rained out. You would start at like 8:30 every night.
Delayed. You're delayed.
Yes.
Right. It does eventually stop. That's the beauty of the area, right? Is that you'll get a pounding rain for an hour and a half, and then they fix up the field. So yeah, you'll just have some late nights. So if you're a night person and you land on the Rays, you might have an advantage, right? You might be playing some later East Coast games. But yeah, Faedo this past season, 57 and a third innings, 6 starts, mostly out of the bullpen, 31 relief appearances, and an ERA at 3.61.
All right, by the way, I got to tell this Florida State League story. When I was in Fort Myers, we had David Ortiz on our team, Jock Jones. We had a whole bunch of guys that were really good. We were playing in Fort Myers one time. It was like July 4th-ish, and so it was a big crowd. I don't know it was sold out, which back then was like 6,000 people in the Florida State League. They had fireworks. Well, there was rain threatening, so that we stopped the game in like the 8th inning, shot the fireworks off so the crowd would get to see them. Fireworks done, crowd left, finished the game.
Stop it.
We were on the field in like the 7th inning. Boom, boom. Their umpire's like, yeah, they want us to stop the game so they get the fireworks and they spend all this money. Boom, 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 boom. The fireworks all go off. All right, guys, let's start the game back up. Had to get a pitcher ready. The whole deal. The crowd all left. We finished the game.
So you're saying they weren't there for the baseball?
No, I mean, not necessarily, but it was seriously one of the all-time great things of all time that they legitimately stopped the game so we could shoot the fireworks off.
That's fan-friendly, though, Kratz. That's minor league baseball.
That is minor league baseball. One of my favorite minor league baseball stories is July 4th, too. We'll get to it another time, but it was Billings, Montana.
All right, well, save it. Actually, maybe we can tell it during a little break because we got to step aside and get ready for Dan Hayes to talk about the Twins. Be right back, FT fam. Okay, Kratz, you got 3 good minutes right here.
Pioneer League. July 3rd, we played a game to have fireworks in Canada because we played in Medicine Hat, Alberta. And obviously, every team wants the fireworks, so we had July 3rd in Canada. Then we came across the border, drove 8 hours to Billings, Montana, because Billings, they wanted fireworks on July 4th, and a little bit more of an important day on July 4th in America. So we're standing on the line, and everybody's kind of in that festive mood and everything. If you've ever been to Billings, there's a big plateau in right field, and that's where the airport is. The airport, all the planes fly in, not like a small airport, Billings Airport. And we're standing there, and as the anthem is finishing, American Airlines or United, I don't know who was flying in, flies in. Basically, it looked like it was kind of over the field. People start freaking out. They thought it was this flyover. It was just a regular commercial jet. It timed it perfectly when a normal flyover would happen. And everyone's like, people were they felt like it was electric because they had an American Airlines flyover when it was just a regular plane just landing.
And somebody was like, I meant to do that.
Someone took credit for
flight. Yeah, I knew that flight was happening at that very time. Very good. Very good. All right, one more quick thing while we have a minute. Carlos Carrasco to the New York Yankees. I'm assuming this is going to be a minor league contract. Going to be tough to crack that rotation. If you're Carlos, definitely getting up there in age. He is almost 38, turns 38 next month. There's John Heyman on it. Great dude. Great smile. Great story, too, coming back from cancer a few years back. Last year, 21 starts. ERA was 5.64 with Cleveland just to eat some innings because they didn't have much going with their starters. They had to save up, rest up at some point, that dynamite bullpen. But we'll see. We'll see. I mean, if Cookie wants to play in the minor leagues and hang around for some depth, that's what he's going to have to do most likely, right?
Rail Rider.
Hope you like Dunder Mifflin.
Could be a little different if they trade Stroman. Not that he's going to make the team, but just that he would be closer to being able to fill in. But they have 100 dudes in the minor leagues that all throw harder than Carlos Carrasco.
That's what I'm saying is, maybe you can be 8 instead of 9 on the spot start list or something like that, right? It's a tough team to crack right now. Here we go. Dan Hayes joining us from The Athletic, covering the Minnesota Twins. We're going to jump into their storylines in a moment. But before we do that, Dan, the storylines we cover for 2025 are there. It's something that, someone could see weeks from now, and it's probably going to stay stable. So I want to know, before we get to that point, if you think we're going to have to redo them because the Twins would suddenly do something crazy like a Dylan Cease move. I read your article. It was great. Can you give us more context on why you think it probably won't happen?
Yeah, I think it won't happen, because I think, is anybody convinced that AJ Preller really wants to do it? Because how does he truly improve the Padres by getting rid of Dylan Cease? That's still a team. I know they have everything going on right now with their ownership situation, and there's rumors about needing to cut payroll, but Dylan Cease taking them off the Padres gives them far less of a chance to compete. And if he can capitalize and get 3 or 4 guys to fill out all the holes they have, then yeah, okay, that makes sense. Do the Twins really want to pay that premium for 1 year? This is a team that knows that their prospects are how they're going to stay alive, how they're going to be afloat for years while they deal with, being a mid-market team on the bottom of that midsection. I think they're 17th in market size, and usually they're 17th, 18th, or 19th in payroll. So it's always prospects and young guys that keep them afloat, so they can sign around the edges. And it's tough. I could never see them trading Walker Jenkins or Emmanuel Rodriguez or Luke Keeschel for 1 year of Dylan Cease. And I think, AJ Preller probably wants to really reload. Look at what Corbin Burns brought the Brewers last year. They got 2 guys that were formerly top 100 prospects and a comp pick. Obviously that part that Dylan Cease, if he got traded before the season started, would bring whatever team the qualifying offer, the compensation pick for the qualifying offer next year. That definitely complicates matters. But, I imagine AJ Preller is aiming high to fill those shoes if he was to move on. And what does that mean? And I think it would be he wants major league talent. So I think it'd be really difficult to remove a couple of major leaguers from the Twins unless they let them do what they want. And, I just don't know that it matches up. But it's absolutely something I think the Twins need to do, just because they need to find a way to recapture this fan base. They still have not drawn 2 million fans since 2019. And when you think about it, post-lockout, they traded for Sonny Gray. They signed Carlos Correa. They didn't draw 2 million fans that year. They were in first place as of Labor Day. And, they were really beat up that year and collapsed, and Cleveland won. But they win the division in 23. They don't make 2 million fans that year. Usually you get a bump the year after you win a division. But ownership cut payroll by $30 million going into the 2024 season. They drew even fewer fans than they did in the division winning season, even though they were 70-53 on August 17th. And, in line, I think they were like 96% chance of making the playoffs. And they didn't draw. So this team needs to do something to reconnect with its fan base. And the story I wrote the other day was just basically, hey, you have this new TV deal. The amount of households that can now see Twins baseball because of no blackouts is 4.4 million. Last year, it was 1.37 million fans or households over the 5 states of Twins territory. So you're tripling your potential audience. And look, the money is never going to be the same as it was when it was Bally Sports. That was $54 million 2 years ago. Streaming does not allow for that kind of money. I think the Padres had 40,000 subscribers going into last season. So do the math, it's, $5 million. But at the same time, you have a chance to attract new fans. There's tons of little kids, 3 times the little kids across those 5 states now can see the Twins that weren't able to before. The time is right to make a move and kind of try to win back your fans. It's just, do you really want to pay that price? And that's why I think it's unlikely, but they've definitely fished in the waters and checked out things. They even asked about Luis Castillo, and that's not going to happen just because the money is way out of their market, their league right now. But they've certainly looked for those kind of moves.
Dan, I want to bite back on 2 points. Number one, sure, you were a playoff team the year before, but then you smacked your fans in the face marketing-wise and said, we're not doing a single thing. We hate you. So that's why fans didn't show up, and ultimately they crumbled. Number two, MLB was holding back streaming availability. That was on the league, in my opinion. And also now you're taking away the discoverability because you will only be able to watch them or see them if you go into an MLB platform versus streaming or versus landing on them. So I'm biting back. I actually firmly disagree with some of this stuff and think it will hurt them long term. But that's my take. Anyway.
No, and I'll say this. The fact that they didn't have streaming last year really hurt them because they had that, Xfinity had the 3-month dispute with Diamond Sports right during the middle of the part where the Twins were good. I think May 1 was the first date, and they were going for win number 11 in a row in that winning streak that they had with the rally sausage. Right when people want to tune in, they were taken off the air for 3 months and not having a streaming option. It last year, potentially, as far as how your fans viewed you, there couldn't have been a worse season coming off of how electric October of 2023 was. And, fans were fired up. I mean, that's the first time they'd won a playoff series in 21 years. And I know we talked about the losing streak, the 18-game losing streak, but to win a series for the first time in 21 years, you had people excited about being at the ballpark and to go with, $30 million off that payroll. And like you said, it was sort of a slap in the face to do that. And you're working with limitations if you're the front office, but there's not much you can do. And it certainly is not a great place to be as you're trying to sell to more people.
All right, Dan, I got to ask you it's kind of a personal question, but it's involved in this. You've covered the Padres, the White Sox, and the Twins. Why is it every time you cover a team, they start snipping payroll instead of adding? I don't know. It just seems like a weird coincidence that the Padres, the White Sox, and the Twins all have to cut payroll after you were around them.
Hey, it's shocking to me that 2019 was the first time I ever even covered a playoff team. So after starting in 2007, so I mean, like I've been at some of these franchises at their lowest points. I would bet that my period of watching the White Sox beat writer winning percentages, it's probably in the bottom 10%, having been there from 2012 to 2017. And yeah, it's a good point. That's a good point. Maybe I should just move on to another franchise, and maybe, you know what? It would be interesting to see if I cover the Dodgers, what they did with payroll at this point.
They'd probably just release Shohei and just be like, oh, we gave up. Dan Hayes is here. We give up.
The Dodgers returning to the Mavericks from this past weekend. All right, I want to get to storylines though, so let's cue that up. The big four storylines for the Minnesota Twins heading into this season. I mean, the sale has to take center stage because this team could get taken over by a billionaire who actually gives a crap about baseball and winning. So stay tuned. We'll ask Dan about that. A redemption season, or could a slow start lead to a manager change or some other type of change with this ball club? The usual health questions: Correa, Buxton, Lewis, how they doing? And the baby bats. I mean, this team's got a good farm system. So Dan, let's start at the top. This team could get dealt by opening day. And by dealt, I mean to an owner who actually gives a crap. I'm sure Twins fans are following this story closely and you've been all over it. So where are we at? And do you think it will change the complexion of this franchise if they land with an owner who is not obsessed with saying the word revenue or portfolio?
Yeah, look, this is the story for the Twins this offseason. I mean, it's been 40 years of the same ownership, and they won 2 World Series early on. They did spend on payroll a couple of times. When Target Field opened, I think they were 9th and 10th in payroll. And fans came out. I mean, there were 3 million fans in those first 2 years of Target Field. There was 3 million fans after it was either the first World Series or the second World Series. But payroll has never been a good thing for the Twins. Usually it's 17th, 18th. It's been bottom of the barrel at the start of the 2000s. So that could change everything. Absolutely. And, I think it's something that fans are optimistic about, but also look, I covered the Padres when they sold in 2009, and John Morris was going through a divorce at the time and had to sell, and Jeff Morad came in, and, a year later, Jed Hoyer, I still remember, was on the dais at Indianapolis just looking pale because he had to trade Adrian Gonzalez to the Red Sox, because the team with the $38 million payroll had to slash even more and couldn't afford to sign Adrian Gonzalez to a long-term contract. So you never really know what you're going to get. Now, this is hopeful because, look, you look at the market, and there haven't been a lot of Major League Baseball teams for sale in the last 15 years. I think since the Dodgers sold and the Padres back in 2012, I think there have been 5 total. And the Orioles were sold 4 days after Peter Angelos died, and that was a quiet deal. It's not like they were out on the open market. I don't think that Kansas City was really out on the market. So you're looking at the Mets, you're looking at the Marlins, and the Mariners was even within their own ownership structure. I think somebody stepped up and bought more. So it's not like there's been an open bidding. And when you have 30 of these products, people are interested in buying. So I think there's hope in that. The name that I've reported and that's been out there is Justin Ishbia, and his brother Matt owns the Phoenix Suns, and Justin's a partial owner of the Suns. They own a minor league baseball team. They own soccer. They definitely represent hope to Twins fans, because I think he's a huge baseball fan. We've written at The Athletic about his donations to Michigan State and his thoughts on baseball. And I think that, you want someone that's a fan in there, and you want someone that knows. And I think Scott Boras said this at the GM meetings. You want someone that knows that they're no longer anonymous. They have winner or loser attached to their name once they buy a franchise. And you never know what you're going to get. You could get John Fisher, you could get Bob Nutting, or you could get, Steve Cohen. So like somewhere in between, Twins fans would be thrilled if someone came in and wanted to spend $20 million on the payroll and cut beer prices by $1 or whatever. And, I think there's room for hope for Twins fans. And I do think that we will see someone picked by opening day. What the structure looks like as far as baseball approving that's a good question, because it takes obviously time to get the approval of the owners. But I would think that the vetting is pretty pretty thorough right now of the groups that are going forward.
All right, two things, Dan, real quick before we get to the next one. One, the White Sox people, the fans, they want them to buy the White Sox because I think they're a small owner in the White Sox already. So forget the Twins. The White Sox want those guys to buy their team. And second of all, Deus. I never heard the word Deus in my life until we went to the BBWAA awards. And like every guy, and I'm like, what the hell is a Deus? What are they talking about? I'm missing a word here. And then you just drop Deus. That's definitely the first time that word's ever been dropped. So that's it. I'll let Kratz go to the next storyline now.
I think that's the first time I've ever used that word, by the way. So you got a gem there.
Me too.
Well done. AJ used it like 4 times, so now he's done for like the rest of his life. No, I'm going to go to the fact that you were just talking about how like this really is hinging on payroll and ownership selling or not selling. So would it be fair because this team, I mean, is in the American League Central where 3 teams made the playoffs. They were on the outside looking in. Is this Rocco Baldelli's, like, if it starts slow, could he be on the trading block? Or, I mean, on the cutting block here?
Yeah, it's a good question. And I will say that Derek Falvey, to no end, talks about the great partnership that they have. So I would put it less likely, but you never know. I mean, look, last year was terrible. The end of the season was not good, and you were going to have a new ownership group come in. So that puts anything on the table, I think, because, you know, a new owner gets to say what they want. And so who knows what the foundation of the Twins looks like from a front office standpoint, from a field staff standpoint in a year. I mean, but, you know, winning is a cure-all, and it's crazy. This team has done nothing this offseason, and you can understand, for the most part, the limitations. They have still a little bit of money to spend. I'm told they have a little bit of wiggle room, maybe $5 million. There's no cutting of the payroll this year. They need to do something still. They need to round out the roster a little bit. The bullpen is outstanding, but there still could be some minor ads there. I think they need ads in the outfield. They need to do more, even though they're projected on paper to win 88 games right now. Because, yeah, you're right. A slow start could do them in, but last year I think they started 7-13. And one thing that Rocco did a great job, they were down Royce Lewis at that point. They were down Carlos Correa, was keeping them together, and they rolled off that, winning streak and got back into competition. And then they had the hideous end to the season, and it's hard to erase that. And who knows if they came out and went, 20-40. There's still a fair amount of money for the Twins payroll-wise to be invested, and it could lead to a change.
That would be shocking. That would.
I think,
it would be shocking just because of the way what Rocco's done, the way they talk about Rocco, and so.
Yeah,
but let's
just to reemphasize. I mean, I think they were down Buxton, they were down Correa when they fell apart last year. The minute Joe Ryan went down, you had 2 starters with the ability to go 5. I mean, they were so up against. They did a good job getting through what they could, but that offense quit at one point in September. And Rocco doing the part where he said that it was an unprofessional series, that was eye-opening. And so it was a lot of chaos going on because of stuff, because they didn't have depth. And again, it didn't come off well externally. Fans were upset, but I agree because Derek Falvey has mentioned so many times how much of a partnership he has with Rocco that it would take something really egregious or, just a big kind of maybe disappointment to see them moving.
Okay. All right. So you mentioned it a little bit, the injuries. Can they keep Carlos Correa? Can they keep Byron Buxton? Can they keep Royce Lewis? Can they keep some of the pitchers healthy in order to get to their number of 88? That's the biggest question for me is,
right.
Yes, they haven't spent, but the guys they have here, can they keep them healthy? What do you think the games played of these guys are, and how healthy can they be?
Yeah, Buxton getting to 100 games last year was encouraging. I know they're excited because this is the first healthy offseason he's had since the 2018-2019. And I remember at that point he'd had an injury-riddled 2018, and he really was fine going into the offseason and was doing like 2-a-days and hitting all day. And it's really when Byron Buxton took off offensively to the kind of hitter that he's become the last couple of years. So they're pumped about that, but the injury history suggests there's always something right around the corner with him. Carlos Correa looked really in shape. We talked to him at Twins Fest last weekend. He looked, like he's ready to go, and he talked about it. I think, it's funny. He's going to have to do the treatment at all times on the heels or the plantar fasciitis on both feet. But I think he feels a lot more prepared for that after the 2 years of going through it. It's just that's hard to escape. I mean, it's something that sticks around once you get it. And he's doing this shock wave therapy on the right foot that he said last year was so painful that it would make him tear up when he was taking it. So, but he's in much better place now because of where the feet are. So, how do they manage that? That'll be interesting. They're going to need someone to step in at times at shortstop. Royce Lewis, the end of the season, he kind of figured out a new routine. They talked about it, that he changed things mid-year after he came back from the devastating quad injury on opening day. The ends, I think he played 58 of 61 games at the end of the season. That's the longest he stayed on the major league field at any time. I think they're hopeful that that's the trend. But he's blown out his knee twice. He has a quad injury. He's definitely, had tricky little injuries here and there over his time in the majors. So the fact that you're built around those three, it leads to concerns. You need depth. That's why some of these young guys are going to have to come through. The Brooks Lees, the Edward Julians, the Jose Mirandas, guys like that. And it's why Willie Castro remains valuable to them, is because they can put him in at shortstop for 20 games if Carlos Correa goes on the IL. And it's something that they need more of. They need outfield depth right now. The outfield's pretty thin. I think if you looked at it right now, Willie Castro is probably their fourth outfielder. He's really sort of your backup at every position with the exception of catcher. And they've talked about maybe even putting him at first base and knowing he could handle it. And it wouldn't shock me at all. But, pitching wise, Bailey Ober previously, he's been healthy the last couple of years and has done really well. He had previous injury history that they helped him manage his way through. Joe Ryan, the groin got him in 2023. Last year he had the forearm injury, or that's challenging. But he came in sounding like he's feeling really good. He said that before he got to camp, he wanted to be hitting 90 on the gun, and in his first bullpen session, his first pitch was like 89.5, and so he feels really good. Where they've said that there's the MRIs have showed that he's cleared. He's never really been an injury history guy, so at the top you got those three guys, but it's then you're looking at Chris Paddock and Simeon Woods Richardson, David Festa. You've got some questions at the back end of the rotation, but Paddock thinks he's going to be healthy and good to go. He just didn't return at the end of last year, and the key for them would be not have to push him the way they did last year. Anthony DeSclafani's injury in spring training meant that Chris Paddock was full go from the start, coming off of his second Tommy John, and that was not a great spot to be in for them.
Dan, last one, because we're pushing against a break here. Yeah. So I'm going to phrase it this way to get to it quicker. So prospects, give me the guy that is going to make an impact of the bigger names this year. So we got like 30-ish seconds, but give me the one name on our way out here.
If he can stay healthy, Emmanuel Rodriguez. That's my guess, just because he's at AAA already. Outfield is probably where they have their most holes. I think he can if he was hitting a ton at AAA and staying healthy, he can be up here pretty quick.
There you go. Okay. Circle the name. Of course, we do a Baseball America hot sheet show as well, but make sure you check out Dan's work in The Athletic. Give him a follow on Twitter. Dan, thank you so much for joining us.
Dan, if I would have gone to Twins Fest this year, would you have interviewed me?
No, I would have said hello though. I would would ask you if you were going to buy the team. If you were one of the guys that was interested in buying the team.
That's why I didn't go. I chose the BBWAA instead. That's why.
Short arms.
Also, we actually have to get some news from AJ on Orlando next before Junior Caminero joins us. So, Dan, thank you for the time. Great to see you. Appreciate it.
Hey, thanks, guys.
All right, be right back, FT fam. That's the order of operations coming up next.
Yeah, I mean, big league pitching is pretty tough, man. So I had a pretty really, really simple swing, and guys were just getting me out, like ground balls to second base, fly balls to left field, kind of that split of like flare to left, ground ball to second. So I kind of just made a really, really big adjustment by adding a leg kick, give me a little bit more adjustability, kind of add a little bit more pop to my swing too. So I mean, it started to play a lot more, started to have a little bit more success. So I mean, that was kind of the biggest mid-season adjustment I had.
do you feel like the team could give you a little more leash? And not just you. I'm kind of like putting you into an entire Cardinals like playbook that when I played, when Trevor played, when Todd played, it was like the dudes that got called up were the old kind of slow AAA players that like, you've been there, but at some point we're going to call up our prospect, the second, and he's going to come up and he's just going to solidify. Kind of like Jordan Walker came up, hit like 280. They sent him down. It was like, golly, do you feel like the Cardinals could give you a little bit more of a leash as prospects in the system when you come up?
I mean, I think it's like more of like yeah, but I feel like it's more of like a runway this year. Given the young guys kind of a shot to really prove themselves and to be able to fail and then like have a chance to succeed too. I mean, we all kind of know how the game goes. I mean, you may get out, you may have a tough stretch of 0 for 20 or whatever, but having that like runway and them knowing that they trust us to continue to push ourselves. I mean, it's pretty comfortable to be able to step in the box every day and say, okay, I mean, I may not get sent down right after this game, but yeah.
Dude, that's perfect. Can you explain what that feeling is like? Can you explain that feeling of like, hey, we got you. We got you for 150, 200 at bats instead of I'm 0 for 3. Is Ali going to pinch hit for me here? Like, what's the deal with that? Like, I got another chance. Okay, I got to do this. Like, what kind of feeling is that? Because I don't lose sleep over that anymore because I ain't playing.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. It's tough to like to kind of have like those thoughts like creep in. Like you don't want it to affect like your at bats, but like it's subconscious, man. It like kind of taps in there and says like, like we got to get a hit, and now you're like kind of pressing and hitting's already hard enough. These guys are throwing stuff that's breaking right when it gets to you. I mean, it's hard enough. So kind of like without that added stress, it gives you kind of it allows you to kind of relax your shoulders a little bit, let your hair down, that kind of idea.
Hot Corner. AJ talks about this topic quite a bit, but it's actually very relevant right now. So there was a good story in the Tampa Bay Times late last week, and then another one here popping up this weekend about Hall of Famer Barry Larkin joining the group in Orlando, the Dreamers, who are said to have $450 million in verbal commitments to try and lure a team. I listened to Barry Larkin on SiriusXM yesterday to try and get any hints and clues. And he definitely did not promise that the attempt was for an expansion franchise. He didn't dive too deep, but he did mention multiple meetings with the commissioner's office. And I'm curious to get your take on where we're at right now, AJ, because these articles have actually been laying out quite a bit of information, including how Tampa Bay's got their own situation where they have to come up with money by 31st of March. The Orlando side of where this would be near SeaWorld, 35.5 acre parcel right around that area that would be all built out and crazy cool, like the Battery Dome Stadium, double the tourists, which you've mentioned before and has been very publicly stated lately. So where are we at, dude? Are we going to get the Orlando Dreamers or the Orlando Pierzynskis? No.
First of all, it's weird. When they brought me on, I didn't get a press conference, so I'm kind of mad about that. So I don't know if I'm on the outs. Only you guys had someone on the show that actually was a part of this and knew what was going on. Yeah, listen, here's the thing. I've told you guys 3/31 is the big day for the Rays. They don't know if – the big thing is the Rays have to come up with half of the money for the stadium that the bond vote got passed in Pinellas County for them. And they don't know if Mr. Sternberg has enough money to cover that. That's the big thing. He's been on a capital raise, trying to raise capital for it. I don't know if he's going to get there or not. But if it doesn't happen, I don't think that, to be honest with you, there won't be an expansion team that comes to Orlando. It will have to be a team that moves. Now, the Rays are the number one thought process here because the Rays don't have a stadium. People in Orlando can get a stadium done because we have 80 million tourists, over 80 million tourists a year that come in to the city of Orlando, which is double. Everyone talks about the tourists in Vegas. That's double the amount of tourists that go into Vegas every year. The media size is, I think it's 15th, about to be 14th in the country. Now,
Yes.
Tampa St. Pete is, I think, 12, so it's a little bit ahead of it. But you could also draw from them. The parcel of land they have is perfect place. 2 highways collide. It's in the middle of the tourist area. SeaWorld, Universal, Disney are all within shouting distance. They're putting in a train line stop, allegedly, right there. It's got an exit right there. It's pretty in and out. They're talking about widening it. Now, there's a couple hiccups. Obviously, the Rays have to move. You have to find someone to buy the Rays because I don't think Sternberg's going to move the Rays to Orlando. But they can get the money. Listen, there's a lot of things that have already happened behind the scenes I can't really talk about. But there is a definitely, like, you guys all thought I was kidding, but this is a legitimate runway for a team to be in Orlando. We have the Magic. We have, I think it's, I forget what the women's soccer team, maybe the Pride. I think they won the women's league last year.
Orlando Pride. They got men's and women's soccer.
We have Orlando City.
Awesome. Yeah.
And we have enough money through a tax program that is kind of unique to Orlando, where you can get money because we generate so much money through tourism every year because of Disney and SeaWorld and all these places, that there's money to build this thing. And they want to build multiple hotels. They want to build a shopping center, much like the Battery has, and the stadium will be covered. I've actually seen renditions of the stadium, unlike some other places where we've never really seen. I've seen renderings of it. So in the whole area. So, I mean, this is a possibility if they can figure out how to get a team to come there. Because you can't really have 3 teams. That's the problem, is you can't really have 3 teams in Florida, especially 2 that are close, Orlando and Tampa. It's almost too close to each other. So the logical move obviously would be to move them. So I don't know if it's going to come to fruition. The name would not be the Dreamers, though. That was the one thing. Pat Williams, who passed away last year, was a good friend of mine. I know his kids and his grandchildren very well. And that was his thing, is it all starts with a dream. That's why he named it the Dreamers. That would not be the name. Now, what the name would be, I don't know. We'd have to sit down and talk about it. But I think this is a real thing that could be a real possibility if Major League Baseball wants to dig into it. Now, there is one minor problem, though. Ron DeSantis, who's the governor of Florida, who kind of controls some of this stuff, he is from the Clearwater, Dunedin area, so he kind of likes the Rays being over there.
Near the beach. Yeah, see, this is what gets interesting. And I'll just add one more fact to that I didn't know. I mean, I've been to a Magic game recently and learned that even when they stink, which is pretty often, they're decent these days, top 10 attendance. And they said, of course, the tourism helps that. I live right in that area in downtown Orlando where the Magic are. That is not the prime spot to put any kind of sports team. So they're doing well with basketball, different sport, way less games. Florida has had trouble with attendance with MLB. But if you put it in that area they're talking about, it is a tourism mecca. There's more money around there. It would be the spot. So anyway, yeah, I liked it. I just don't want to bury the lead here. The talk about the expansion part of it, which, was included with Barry, is completely this. It's a complete non-factor.
No, it wouldn't be an expansion team.
No chance they will have 3. So really, I just want to call a spade a spade. We're all paying attention to what happens with the Rays, and if they can figure out being friends, right, and getting the money that they need, because otherwise it's going to be the Orlando Rays. That's what this is all telling to me. Why would MLB start getting so involved with this? Because they need a legitimate backup plan. They do not want to leave that area. And I do think that they believe in Orlando. And they know that it's only going to happen if Tampa Bay comes through. It's just the facts.
And I think, was it Manfred not long ago was quoted as saying Orlando has the money to get this done. I don't know where I read that or saw that, but Manfred actually was quoted as saying Orlando has money to get something done. So, I mean, listen, there's some obviously hurdles to jump over to get this done. But I know that I've been joking about this on the show for a couple of years, but there actually are wheels in motion, things in play that could make this a reality. And there's a couple big hurdles you got to get over. But if those hurdles don't pass, like the March 31st is a big one. If that falls through, this thing could pick up steam and become a real reality because they're ready to move on a stadium. They're ready to do all these things. They just need to go ahead with a team. And once they find that, they are ready to move.
Kratz, I mean, do you feel like you're on an island here? You've got the mayor of Orlando and a transplant who's enjoying his time. So obviously we're a little bit biased.
I'm enjoying it. I've always said if hockey can thrive, not survive, thrive, signs everywhere, championships, all that stuff in Florida. Don't give me the oh, it's so tough for baseball. It's not. Like I would love for the right people to get in there and get a team in Florida, because Florida, Texas, California are baseball meccas. The state needs a team that like they can get behind. In my opinion, maybe I'm completely behind. But if the group in Orlando, backed by AJ, hey, maybe it'll be the A's. Come on, John Fisher and AJ buddies. Oh, I would love to see it. Oh, John, come on our show. John will be like, what is it, a baseball show? No, I go on business shows.
By the way, the key, one of the keys to this whole thing is like people worried about attendance, right? The one thing you have to do is if you have hotels there, and there's a million hotels in Orlando, I mean, we're the hotel capital of the world pretty much, right? You have to get the theme parks involved. You have to get Disney involved. You have to get the SeaWorld involved. You have to get Universal involved. All the other theme parks around here. You have to have a way to get them involved, because I think that if you can get them involved, and people can say like, hey, these tourist packages, you can go to 3 days of Disney. Oh, and by the way, we'll throw in, you're from Cleveland. We'll throw in a Guardians game versus the Orlando, whatever we're going to call them, the Orlando Dreamers. I think people would do that because baseball is affordable on a scale like that. I think so. I think this is something that could really work, and I think it could be big, but we'll see.
People hit parks, and then they're looking for stuff to do at night. And I will say 100%. There's not enough to do at night. There's not enough to do at night. There should be more in that area. I think that's missing out, taking it from a night person. So anyway, we'll see. Stay tuned. Updates here. AJ's involved. Or at least in the area.
Maybe this week. Supposed to have a meeting this week. So,
Junior Caminero joining us next. Speaking of Braves. I want to get to two things. One is quick. The San Francisco Chronicle came out and said they're going to call them the Sacramento A's. Yeah, of course. I mean, that's what everyone should be doing. I know they don't want the city behind it, but Ken Rosenthal this morning on his show said the same thing, I think, about The Athletic. I don't want to totally misquote him, but he said something along the lines of, yeah, we'll call them whatever we want. We're not getting paid. You can call them the poop heads if you want. I mean, it is what it is. No, too far. But you can say whatever you want. I mean, it's not like a law. Oh, you have to call us by this. So that's within the league and contracts like that, but not within media coverage. So they're
not calling them the poop heads, Scott. They're not calling them poop heads. That's the first time poop head has ever been said on the show.
You know why? Because I spent a day with my niece and nephew the other day. So you can tell the popular word amongst 6 and 9-year-olds. Anyway. One more thing. Ken Rosenthal put out a really cool article this past weekend detailing Kansas City's pursuit of Anthony Santander. They sent an offer. It sounded like they enhanced that offer, but it was too late. He already agreed to go to Toronto, but it, in my mind, would have been a big deal for Kansas City, Kratz, if the Royals landed someone like Santander. They pivoted to Esteves, which is cool, but that's a totally different player, and they really still need another outfielder and some more pop, in my mind.
That's exciting for me. Obviously, being a Kansas City homer, one of my 9 homers, but I love that. I love that they're going after a huge impact bat. Maybe they're a mystery team on some people. Just saying. Just think about it, because what was it, like 66 million supposedly was out there?
Yep, 3 years, 66 was the enhanced offer. Santander's contract is actually in that similar range, right? But because it's deferred and it's longer years. Yeah. The AAV was higher by a good chunk, what they were offering versus what he ended up getting with Toronto, but he got the longer years. And generally the player's going for the longest or the biggest overall money. But anyway, I thought it was interesting to hear from Ken about that little pursuit, but it didn't happen. Got to get that better offer early. All right, we're going to talk to Junior Caminero. What? Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and it's a little pivot away from like all defense. Like the Royals are looking for some thump, which would be a pivot away from their defense first, then some thump.
Right, and he's probably a future DH too, especially with that outfield. But that's fine. You can have a DH.
Also,
in
real quick,
cases.
I love that he accepted that he'd already agreed and he didn't change his mind when the Royals came in.
Yeah,
Good point. That's cool.
That is cool. Here we go. Junior Caminero joining us right now for the first time on Foul Territory, and he's sitting next to Rafa Nieves, his representation and superstar interpreter for us during this little time period. So, Rafa, good to see you again. And Junior, thank you for joining us on the show. How has your crazy winter been?
¿Cómo ha sido el invierno, esta locura que has vivido?
No, bien, ¿sabes? Una experiencia única que he vivido en este invierno con los escogidos y ese juego 7 nunca lo voy a olvidar.
He said it's been a great winter. He had a unforgettable experience in winter ball, and especially that game 7 with Escogido. It's something that is going to stick with him for life.
All right, I got to ask, why is he not playing? I flipped on the Dominican Winter League or the Caribbean World Series in Mexicali. No Junior Caminero playing for the Dominican team. Is it because he was too tired and it took him so long to go around the bases and he took all his energy out and the Rays were like, no mas home run celebrations that take 10 minutes? Because Erik and I were dying laughing. I wanted some of the tacos he passed out around second base. I wanted some of the confetti he popped. I wanted a high five through the TV. Best home run celebration I've ever seen.
No, yo duré 56 segundos corriendo la base, pero no fui a Mexicali porque ya el equipo me dijo que descansara para llegar ready a Pin Trainer y Kevin Cash estaba ya en Dominicana y me dijo que jugara round robin y que llevara el equipo a la final y así sucedió, pero no Mexicali.
He said that it was only 56 seconds around the bases. But he said that the Rays only gave him permission to play the round robin, and then Kevin Cash flew down to the yard and saw him in good shape, and he told him that if he made it to the finals, that he would let him play the finals, but that was it. After that, they wanted him to rest and put his mindset and focus on getting ready for spring training.
Hey, you broke the scoreboard. Did they make you pay for that?
No.
No? Okay.
David.
David's going to
Okay. That's fair. That's fair.
David.
Yo soy Aguilucho.
David Ortiz? David Ortiz?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
He
Yeah,
said,
you know who should have paid? Albert should have paid. You should have made Pujols pay.
Yeah, he's richer than David, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, bueno.
porque ese tiene más cuarto que David.
Sí.
Okay.
Who?
Yo soy Aguilucho. ¿Qué favorito equipo when you were a niño? When you were a kid, like I was an Aggie. I was an Eagle. It's one of the teams that plays down there. It's the Santiago Águilas, the Eagles. And he played, Junior plays for the Escogido, which is one of the teams in Santo Domingo.
Yes, yo soy escogidista desde pequeño. Desde pequeño he sido fanático del Escogido. Y hoy en día yo coronarme campeón con el equipo que siempre soñé desde pequeño es más que una bendición de Dios.
Yeah, he said he's been a Escogido fan since he was born. All his family are Escogido fans, and he grew up a Escogido diehard. And he said this was a blessing for him from God.
Fuiste redacto. Did they draft you? Did the Escogido draft you? Because in the Dominican, sometimes our fans don't necessarily know this. One team drafts you when you're like 16, and then you don't play for them for a little bit. Were you drafted by them?
¿Y si te drafteó el Escogido?
Sí, a mí me drafteó el Escogido en el 2023, creo que fue.
Yeah, they drafted him in 2023.
All right. Well, I want to know about Albert. Forget this who could drafted you crap. I want to know about Albert Pujols. Did he draft you? Did he sign you? Was Albert Pujols giving you a high five after you hit the home run? What's Albert Pujols like as a manager? Because now I've heard he wants to be a big league manager. So did Junior Caminero push Albert Pujols to be an MLB manager one day, possibly?
Que él quiere saber cómo fue Albert como manager.
Albert Pujols, para mí, es una tremenda persona porque yo siempre cada vez que llegaba el play le pedía mucho consejo y todo eso. Y en una yo le dije a Pujol, le dije, mira, te estoy preguntando mucho, perdóname por eso, porque yo quiero saber, yo te quiero sacar información. Eso es lo bueno que yo tengo, que yo quiero aprender de eso, leyendas, futuro Salón de la Fama. Y para mí tener una oportunidad de estar con él en los Leones Escogidos, ser como manager y tremenda persona, ¿sabes? Me ayudó bastante en lo que pude estar ahí.
He said that Albert was so resourceful to him that he even had to apologize one day, and he said, "I'm sorry, I'm bothering you so much, but I just want to learn and take all I can from a legend and a future Hall of Famer like you." But he said he was great. He was always available to him, and he was a great influence on this experience with him.
That is a baller trophy too that we're looking at right now. How was that last series? Obviously, it was an amazing series to watch from a competition standpoint, but how was the rivalry, right? So there was, of course, a lot of chirping, and I'm always curious about the dynamic between going crazy and showing off, your best enthusiasm and best antics, versus trash talk. So was there both? And if so, did it ever escalate to, too crazy of a time? Obviously, you had your fun during game 4 too with the dugout.
Que cómo fue la rivalidad y que él sabe que ya allá se tiran y se hablan mucho, pero que cómo fue tu experiencia en ese ámbito.
Esa experiencia, yo nunca viví una experiencia así ni aquí en Grandes Ligas como la viví ya en Dominicana. Allá en Dominicana, como cuando tú estás en tu país y tú eres fanático voceándote mucha mala palabra y todo eso, tú tienes que concentrarte bien. Esa fanática allá es muy problemática, como decimos nosotros dominicanos, pero la experiencia fue única. Cuando nosotros nos concentramos en el juego, la experiencia fue demasiado única. Pujol ahí dándome consejos, que me olvidé de las redes sociales, en lo que tenía que enfocarme en estos 7 juegos aquí en la serie final, y Insegura también dándome consejos por eso mismo, como yo era el más joven ahí, ¿sabes? Para yo tratar de no salirme de juego y poder ayudar al equipo lo que me puede y poder estar concentrado al 100%.
He said it was a unique experience, something he had never experienced before. A lot of trash talking, especially from the fans. He plays third base and he's playing on the Licey side, and they have all their fans on that side of the stadium, and it got to him, but he listened a lot to Pujols, and Gene Segura was a big influence on him as well, trying to get him to not take it personal and try not to listen to it. Gene Segura advised him to get off social media during that week and not pay attention to any of that and just try to quiet the noise. He said he learned a lot from it.
All right, is he watching? I want to know, is he watching the Caribbean series on the TV? Because I've watched it the last couple of days, and I love the atmosphere. So is he watching it? And is he upset that he's not? I mean, I want to see him play, so I'm kind of upset deep down when I turned it on, and I don't see him.
Que si has estado viendo la serie del Caribe y que si estás triste que no estás con el equipo.
No he tenido tiempo porque estoy aquí con usted y mi pareja vacacionando y todo eso. Pero sí me llamaron el equipo ayer, el presidente del equipo, y me dijo que si podía bajar ya porque hasta los japoneses están preguntando por mí, que Dominicana está aquí, pero que Caminero tiene que estar aquí obligatoriamente. O sea, que hasta los japoneses están preguntando que por qué yo no fui, pero no, vine a vacaciones aquí a Los Ángeles y está tranquilo. Y además Kevin Cash no quiere que vaya.
Yeah, he said that he hasn't been able to watch because he's on vacation with his fiancée. He hasn't been able to watch the games, but they actually called him yesterday. Apparently, it's a 4-hour drive from LA, and they saw that he was in LA, and they wanted him to make the drive down there to watch the game in the dugout because apparently all the other teams, all the other countries' media has been asking where he is, especially the Japanese media. They've been pushing a lot the Dominican team, asking why he's not there.
In that finals, because you were on the Licey side, Did you ever feel unsafe? Because so many times people are like, oh, I never feel safe when I'm in Venezuela or Dominican. When I was down there, I never felt unsafe. But did you feel safe? Because you were close. There was a lot of Licey fans pretty close to you.
Como tú juegas tercera del lado del Licey, que si en algún momento te sentiste inseguro, como que te podía pasar algo por estar de ese lado.
No. Entiendo yo que todo el que entra al estadio es porque no tiene ni arma de fuego ni nada. Pero sí me sentí un poquito asustado si me hubieran tirado una botella o algo y tratan de hacer una maldad. Aparé un fly cerca de ellos, justamente cerca de ellos, y me querían agarrar, me agarraron un poquito y querían como hacer una maldad, pero yo traté de no poner mucha atención a eso y yo seguí en el juego.
He said he didn't feel like anything life-threatening because, there's a lot of security to get into the stadium, but he did feel nervous sometimes that they could throw a bottle at him or any other object. There was a time where he caught a fly ball in foul territory right by the net, and they tried to grab him. They tried to, get physical, and that did make him nervous a little bit.
Y cuando me vocearon mucho, cuando yo fui a atrapar la bola, me vocearon mucho, hasta el día que hasta me iba a morir. Me vocearon mi familia, todo eso, pero yo traté de estar concentrado.
When he got to the net, they knew all his family, all the names in his family, and they made sure that he heard all of them.
Oh, they're pro hecklers. That is true. I will
like
say,
that's like Nueva York. Same.
Yeah,
That's like New York. I mean, he's used to it now. He's ready
in
to
New
go.
York, they got rid of those bozos. They can't go to games. The two guys that grabbed Mookie Betts. So at least we got rid of those two. You saw that. All right, so I want to ask a couple baseball or MLB related questions here for you, Junior. Number one, I mean, this season, obviously high expectations, but you're going to be playing at the Yankees spring training home. Are you excited, disappointed, or don't really care about the situation? Because it is a minor league park, but I actually think you're going to get just as many fans, just in a different way. You're going to probably get almost sellout crowds of 11,000. I think the attendance last year in a much bigger park was only in the 12, 13,000.
Yo no me siento incómodo por eso, porque cuando estaba en el San Pi no iba mucha gente, pero ahora como vamos a estar en Tampa, ahí en el centro de Tampa, creo que el play se va a llenar casi todos los días, principalmente cuando vamos contra los Yankees, con cualquier equipo, pero me siento cómodo porque Kevin Cash mismo me dijo que me enseñó fotos del clubhouse, como lo están poniendo, del weight room, y que nosotros nos vamos a sentir cómodos, que nosotros vamos a vivir esa experiencia ahí en los Yankees este año, pero aprovechar esta temporada, Dios mediante, y en lo que vamos a ver qué pasa en estos últimos años en el Tropicana, pero gracias a Dios no nos fuimos tan lejos, sino nos quedamos ahí mismo en Tampa. Pero pienso que vamos a estar bien ubicados porque en el San Pi no va mucha gente, y a pesar de si jugamos con los Yankees y eso, pero creo que aquí en Tampa creo que se va a llenar todos los días, aunque es un poquito pequeño, pero vamos a tener una buena experiencia ahí.
He says he's not worried about it, but he does feel that with the location of this field, unlike St. Pete, that is such a long drive for Tampa residents, that they're actually going to get better crowds in the stadium, and they're probably going to get a lot of sellout crowds, and it might make the environment more exciting. He said that he's talked to Cash, and Cash has shown him pictures and videos of the weight room and the clubhouse and all the stuff that they're working on to make it MLB standard. So they're all excited about it.
¿Quién es mentor on the Rays? Who's a mentor on the Rays for you? Is there somebody you go to? Mentor like a leader, like.
Oh, okay. Es que todos los veteranos que están allá, yo me llevo de ellos. Los veteranos allá, Vilao, Yandy, los que tienen más años en Grandes Ligas allá. Como nosotros somos unos novatos y eso, nosotros nos llevamos de ellos, y allá todo el mundo es líder.
Yeah, he mostly just listens to the veterans like Yandy and anyone with more service time. It's a very young team. There's not a lot of veteran presence.
Yeah. Hey, and that's often the case with the Rays. All right, I got one more. I think these guys will do their last questions after that. So, taking you a few years back, you get traded from Cleveland to the Rays. From what I recall at the time, they're like, 40-man roster crunch. It's for Tobias Myers, who ends up actually being a nice pitcher on Milwaukee. But at the time, were you like, wait, they're trading me? Because you were so young. Did you kind of grasp what was going on? And, how did it affect you?
Me sorprendí mucho cuando me cambiaron en el 21. Me sorprendí más porque pienso que fue muy rápido y no lo entendía cuando estaba muy pequeño y me sentí como así, como que incómodo. Dije, wow, Dios mío, tengo que hacer nueva familia en Tampa, voy a llegar desde cero, voy a llegar, o sea, como sumiso. Y es un poquito diferente porque como cuando yo estaba en Cleveland, ya yo tenía mi amigo, mi amistades, conocía a todo el mundo, pero después entendí que esto es un negocio y nada, si el equipo de Tampa, gracias a Dios, me dio la oportunidad de yo poder demostrar quién soy hoy en día, lo agradezco mucho porque al final es tu negocio, pero en el momento me quedé así como en shock, wow, Dios mío, tan rápido.
Yeah, it was shocking and uncomfortable at the beginning because he was so young in 2021 that going into a new organization, he was going to have to start from scratch, building relationships and friendships and trust and all of that. So it was shocking for him, especially at such a young age.
Understood. Makes sense. It turned out okay. All right. I got to know, if the Rays make the playoffs and it goes to a game 7 and he hits a home run in the 9th inning, will we see? Okay. Dude, that's this is like my favorite celebration I've ever seen. Look at that. It would be amazing.
Perfecto.
You like it?
I love it.
Tú sabes.
These guys love it.
Wow.
Will he do it?
He said no.
No, porque
I'm not sure about that.
What is it? My Espanol's not as good. So what is it? Que alto bat? How high did the bat go how high?
Como
50 metros.
lejos, eso cayó como en el por allá arriba.
They said like if there was a building next to it, it would have hit the 10th floor.
That's good. All right, Kratz, you got last licks.
All right, last one. ¿Te gusta baloncesto? You like basketball? ¿Hay camise?
Me gusta. I like it.
Okay.
No juego.
Está bien.
Right, he doesn't play.
Yeah, you don't play. But, hey, what about the trade did you see the trade with Luka Doncic and Anthony Davis?
Yes.
He's going to the Lakers game tomorrow.
Ooh.
Okay. So what do you think about that? Is that crazy? Now you get to see Luka when you go to the Lakers game.
Crazy. I never seen Luka. So tomorrow watch Luka and LeBron James, Bronny James, Kiss, everything. I saw last year LeBron James, but this year together the Luka and LeBron James is crazy for me. Good experience.
Have you met him? Have you met any of them? Like, did you get to meet him when you're courtside?
No.
Oh. Maybe they recognize the bat flip tomorrow and come up to him.
See? Uh-huh.
Maybe.
I hope so. That's cool. Well, it's good timing to hit a game. Great. Glad we got you on here too. Coming off, you were the talk of the winter because we don't get much baseball, so we get those highlights. So thank you for joining us here for the first time. We'll see you in spring training. A couple of us live in Orlando, so we're close by, but appreciate it. Enjoy the break that you've got, and then we'll see you in a couple weeks, okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Really good.
Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And Rafa, good to see you. Thank you again. That's Rafa Nieves along with Junior Caminero of the Rays. Big slugger who had a fun winter. All right, here we go. BetMGM looking at futures. Now we're going to hop around to some player props, and we're going to look at Max Fried, the new New York Yankee, who had 166 punch-outs last year and 174 in the third innings. The number's at 155.5. You're like, whoa, he hit 166 last year, so he should be in good shape. Well, the whole deal with pitchers is usually banking on a health guess. You're taking the over, AJ? Yeah.
That's easy.
Kratz?
I think.
Really?
Easy. Easy peasy, mac and cheesy.
I'm taking the under. I just feel like the team is good enough that they could possibly give him some break that would not allow him to get all his starts in. I could be off on that. He's done it. I think he's gone over that number 3 times in his career. So it's tough to not necessarily stay healthy, but just to get all your starts. Like the Yankees get off to a hot start, they don't need him to make all their starts. Sit him for a few. Maybe he doesn't quite reach that.
And I'll double down on this. If there's a minor injury and you are a surefire playoff team, they're going to give you more time to chill, especially when you have depth. So I'm with you there. Just playing the law of health averages and how teams manage their guys. All right, good.
He's going to want to prove he's going to want to prove that he's worth the contract. He's going to want to pitch every 5th day. Listen, Max Fried pitches when he can. There was times he pitched like with all kinds of problems. He's going to want to pitch, and I think he'll get his strikeouts.
Okay, we'll see what happens. We'll mark this one down. All right, so 2 unders and an over. And a reminder to everyone about, Sunday's kind of a big deal, Super Bowl time. So you can download the BetMGM Sportsbook app on iOS or Android or at betmgm.com and get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if you don't win your first bet. $1,500 offer. Gambling problem or concern, call 1-800-GAMBLER. Also, reminder, you can use that code FOUL, F-O-U-L, and that bonus bet applies if your bet loses. If your bet wins, good for you. All right, FT fam, be right back with a Shohei Ohtani injury update and a Mariners old quote that is resurfacing about the state of the franchise. In the weeds, we have Shohei Ohtani pitching updates. He had the shoulder surgery too this offseason. I mean, he's been through it body-wise. Sometimes you don't realize it because he's like a cyborg on the field and had such a ridiculous year at the plate. But he's coming off the elbow surgery, the shoulder surgery, and now is going to try and do what nobody else does in the sport, which is hit at an elite level and pitch at an elite level. It sounds like Doc Roberts was going with a May return to the mound. He'll start the season, of course, as the DH in the lineup. Kratz is smirking more than AJ, so you get to go first. But this makes sense, although I could see them suddenly saying it's going to be June and really taking care of the arm, because you would like to see that arm thrive in October.
How many starts you want from him? 20? Does that mean he gets 15 during the season? Like now you're talking, middle of the season. If he starts in June, they're not gonna pitch him every 5 days. It could be 6 or 7 days, given the extra off day. So to me, if they get 20 starts, including the postseason, out of him, I think to me that would be the number. I'm not quoting that from anywhere, but I'm just thinking about the wear and tear for this guy and what that's going to do, to the longevity, productivity at the plate and on the mound.
I mean, I think they're not going to rush him. I think they have like 12 starting pitchers and a big loaded bullpen. I think they're going to take them time. I think they're going to just see when he's ready. It's not a rush. Listen, the longer he delays pitching, the more days he can DH and play offense, right? Because there are days when he pitches, he needs off days after and all this thing. Remember when he was in Anaheim? He would need a day off sometimes after he pitched, before he pitched. So you lose that side of the offense of it. So I think if I'm the Dodgers, I'm like, all right, just keep getting better and better. Maybe we'll use you out of the bullpen or something. But if I'm the Dodgers, I push this back as far as I can.
Yeah, there's no reason to rush by any means. And in fact, save the bullets because you're a playoff lock. I mean, some people think they're a World Series winning lock. That's too far, but they are a playoff lock more than anyone else. So we'll be right back and go over the Mariners quote I was mentioning during Slap Pants. All right, Kratz, you can give us your
You guys ever get a weird call and you just have to call them back and know who it is? You guys do this for your friends? So like a buddy of mine just texted me. He's like, I got this weird text from somebody. Do you know who it is? And I said, no. So I'm calling him right now live on air to see who it is.
All right, tell us. Are we getting an answer here? What's going on?
Well, I hope they answer, but I don't think they're going to. Because I have that block caller ID.
You have the no caller ID. So if I get that, I'm like, well, now it's different because I'm like, oh, it's AJ.
Right, got it. I know who it is. I don't know who that person is.
You do or you don't?
I don't. I'm not going to say his name. He might be somebody.
Okay.
I don't know. I never heard of him, so I'm not going to say his name. If it was someone famous, I would have said it was cool, but it's not really that cool. Sorry, I hijacked the segment. Go ahead.
It was
Tom
worth
Brady.
it. It was Brady.
Someone. I will say it was someone from down South Florida, so it could have been Tom Brady, but it wasn't.
Kratz hats, because then I want to do Mariners during this last segment.
I mean, Junior came on, so why could I not wear my Rays hat? I'm like, gotta kind of stick with the theme. It could be the Orlando Rays.
No, we'll change that name too. We're
not
changing that name.
Not going to keep the Rays name?
Yeah, no, sorry.
There would be like tens of hundreds of people that would be upset about that.
Tens of hundreds, yeah.
It is true. I love me some Tampa, but man, they have not supported that team. Let's be real. Like the attendance numbers suck there, and they should be better.
The TV ratings are good though. The TV ratings
are good, but the TV ratings also include Orlando. Orlando is that market. Yeah, Orlando gets the Rays games. That's our team, right?
Yes. No. Yes, we do get the Rays. We're actually in a weird spot. We get the Rays and the Marlins if you have cable. You actually get them both, so it's kind of a weird spot. But they don't draw because I'm sorry, but where the stadium is just is not good. I hate to say it. It's just not good. It's just not good.
Homer.
It's just true. Everyone talks about it. Junior Caminero just talked about it. He's like,
Junior Caminero just said he plays for him.
Yeah,
he's a homer.
That's true. We're all homers. All right, coming back with our favorite quotes from the Mariners rebuild to where they are now. All right, let's finish with some news from the Mariners because they apparently are pretty much done from doing anything major, this according to their beat writers. And then we got a little real quote dug up by the Marine Layer podcast, not part of the FT network, but still nice people. Quote, our goal was to set ourselves to be as flexible from an age, from a system, and from a payroll perspective as we could in that 2021 launch. Kikuchi and Seager will be the only players on our roster earning north of arbitration numbers. That gives us incredible spending power in the free agent market at a time when some of the best players of this generation might be available in free agency. Well, that line was true, but the part before it, and this came from Jerry Dipoto at the time, was absolute blasphemy. They did not go after superstars in the free agent market. In fact, I thought it was a lock that they were going to bring back Justin Turner, and I don't even know if they're going to bring him back this coming season. So stay hot, Seattle.
There's a couple quotes from Jerry Dipoto wishes his head back now, doesn't he? I didn't say it. I'm not allowed to say it.
Sometimes he gets the truth serum. Before he gets up on stage or in front of a mic, he just gets that truth serum out there.
I appreciate the honesty.
My thing is, when you look back at that quote from several years ago, I think he assumed that they were going to get more leeway. You know, I've been trying to play this in a way that doesn't go too hard after the front office. Right now, I'd be pissed if I'm a Mariners fan that they're not at least trying to do something. But at the time, they thought that the spending power would tick up because they're not a big spending team. So they were like, oh, this is our rebuild. We're going to build something special. And then we're going to buy the talent on the back end. We're going to have a World Series team. They just forgot that last step. Well, he wasn't allowed. He wasn't allowed.
Last step. They did it.
Yeah.
Okay, how do teams do their rebuild? Homegrown players, mostly trades and draft picks, right? And they build this talent. And then when they get to the end, what do they have to do? They have to supplement it with people, free agents from the outside. Cubs, John Lester, John Lackey, right? Hayward, those guys, right? The Astros, they brought in Verlander, some of the other guys. So when these teams do these epic rebuilds, it's like kind of where the Orioles are at right now. They kind of fiddled around with it a little bit this offseason. They went with Corbin Burns last year. They made the playoffs, didn't work out, but they didn't go enough to where they get the next step and the next wave to put them over the top. It's tough to build a homegrown team of 26 people that can win the World Series. You have to mix in some key free agents, have to be smart with it and make them work.
One more good example, because it was 2 years ago, Seager, Semien, Rangers, World Series title, right? You get your Evan Carter performance. You get your Jordan Montgomery trade. Shame, John Stanton. You know who you are. All right, what's up? We're back. We got the camera a little more under control, but not completely today. So we're working on it. Baby steps.
It's not complete Blair Witch Project anymore.
No. Well, it does still move, but it only
great
moves
movie
every once in a while. Blair Witch, for a lot of our fans, probably.
Seasickness
of Blair Witch, yeah.
True story.
For a lot of fans that are probably checking us out, they do not know what we are talking about. Pabs in the chat said, wondering if you guys plan on discussing Faye Vincent. No, we didn't, but thoughts and prayers with his family. A commissioner back in the late 80s into the early 90s, who did some good things for baseball. I personally just don't know much about him. So, but I do want to say, thoughts with the family. I know Tyler Kepner, I think, wrote a pretty good article in The Athletic that I honestly haven't gotten to yet. But if you want to learn more about him, one of the commissioners in our game, and a game that doesn't add many, right? Often a commissioner will take over for a long period of time. I think his run was very short from what I recall, right? I don't know why. I don't know the history, but I think it was only 89 to 92.
Didn't it go Uberoth, Faye Vincent, or where was Giamatti in there? And then Bud, and then old Bud took over?
Bud took over in 92, right?
But
yeah. And then Manfred's had a really long run with the job as well. So no, we didn't get to it. We did just now, but I don't have much info. I mean, for you guys were too young, so nobody came across him, right? By the time you guys are around, you got some Bud Selig, and then
I got a lot of Bud Selig.
Yeah, a lot of Bud Selig, and then that went into Manfred.
Manfred's 10 years, right? This is 10th year for Manfred, isn't it? Around there?
Yes, he just hit 10 years. I wonder if he gets like a 10-year.
How come we didn't have him on to celebrate?
Great call. Rob, we tried.
That's not on us.
Rob, call us. We want to talk to you.
We had it set up. I don't know what happened.
We lost him.
We'll keep trying.
We are going to keep trying. And lastly, Jay in the chat, of those 80 million tourists in Orlando, how many are there during the baseball months? Isn't winter tourist season for Florida? No, it's year round.
No,
people go
summer.
to Disney. Yeah.
Disney is year round. I mean, people think it's winter, but summer people are off of work and kids are out of school. That's summer. It's hotter than Hades, but it'll be covered. Yeah.
South Florida is different. Other parts of Florida different. Orlando, year-round action. That is right.
Speaking
Just like
of, you know what I
Vegas,
can't
right?
wait?
Vegas gets action all summer long, and you're like, damn, it's 110 degrees here.
You know what's about to open? The new Universal Park with Donkey Kong and Mario World. And oh boy, starting to see some leaks. Mm-hmm.
I didn't know this.
Mm-hmm.
I've never been to Universal. That will be the time for me. Big Mario Kart guy. Mario Kart, Florida. See everyone on Tuesday. I can't talk.
What an accident.